2006 Toyota Corolla. I think it's a 1.4, 1.6, I'm not sure yet. Anyway, clutch is gone, we've got to do a clutch. But just look at the seat. That is past 90 degrees. How does anyone drive like that? And not in it, look at the state of it, but I'm not bothered about the state of it. Look at that seat. Seriously, it's past 90 degrees. I mean, that's just dangerous. Right, from the looks of things, it's a 1.4. So the way I like to start with Toyotas is underneath with the clutch. Because we've got this bar going right through, we've got two engine mounts essentially, or gearbox mounts on the gearbox, one front and one back. But this big bar is kind of in the way, so all that has to come out. So I'm just going to unbolt all this off camera because you're not going to be able to see. There's going to be nuts and bolts here, nuts and bolts here. All these plastic covers, we're going to take all them off because we have to take the drive shafts out. And again, drive shafts are going to be very easy. They pop out. I've done other videos, but once you undo the bolts on the actual shock, the wheel can kind of come out, gives you enough room to actually take them off. I'm going to kind of do all that off camera first because it's just literally a few nuts and bolts. And if I come across anything interesting, I will turn the camera back on. Right, as you can see there, that's the cross member, or part of it. That's the plastics. So we've got it off. It is a little bit awkward, especially this rear mount here. You can just see it hanging out. Just turn the touch on. Just kind of see it hanging out just down there, look. I tend not to take it out. You can take it out, but it's easier because the gearbox is kind of in the way, and it's one of them things that you forget to put in before the gearbox, and it just makes your life that little bit more awkward. Not impossible, just a little bit more awkward. And yeah, so just nuts and bolts there. I'm going to take off these two engine mounts here because it just again gives you a bit more room for the gearbox. This back one's a bit more awkward. And then to take off the drives, we just undo these two bolts. We kind of let the suspension fall down. We undo the main bolt inside here. But before we do that, we need to drain the oil. Now, again, very important, before you drain the oil of any gearbox or differential or anything, make sure you can loosen the feed plug first, because if you drain this, we have to do it anyway because we're putting a clutch in, but especially if you're just changing the fluid, if you drain it and you can't undo this, then you're in trouble. So just always make sure you can undo the filler plug before you undo the drain plug. Again, I'm going to do that off camera. I've shown these in separate videos how to take these off, but it is just essentially a few nuts and bolts. There's not a lot really I can show you. So yeah, we'll get them off, and we'll just get the ring of bolts off, get the gearbox down and change it. Simple, eh? Right, a thing that is going to save your life in a job like this is one of these tools. It's a bendy extension. This one happens to be an impact, which you pay an extra little bit for, but just get a good quality impact one, and believe me, you'll have it for a long time. They're absolutely brilliant because there's some really awkward, especially on the back bracket, there's some really awkward bolts, and the fact that you can get it at different angles just makes your life so much easier. So we've basically got this drive out, but what I want to show you is when you're taking the drives out, just a couple of little things you always need to do. This is with any nuts, bolts or anything. You see, especially when the threads are sticking out, always a good thing, clean them threads, because that's what causes you the problem. When all this muck, you know, and you're screwing this out, the muck's going to build up and compact, and that's when it's going to start stripping threads, or you're not going to be able to get it out. It's going to cause all sorts of damage, and especially where it only takes seconds to actually clean that. Lubricant's not going to really do any good. Any spray penetrator's not going to do any good. Believe me, wire brush cleaning it, that's going to do the trick. Also, these are 17 or 19 mil bolts, nuts and bolts here. But what you want to do is also take this off, because what happens is these do get stretched. It's a 14 mil bolt here. It just releases the pressure from the brake caliper and the ABS sensor and allows this to come out a lot more for you to pop the drive shaft out. It just makes your life so much easier. So they're just a couple of little tips and tricks, and you'll be fine. Right, so we got all the drives and everything out. There's a few more things we can do down here, but I just want to get kind of the top. You see, we've got an earth strap here. We can disconnect the slave cylinder for the clutch. We can also disconnect, oh, there's some light on. We can also disconnect the gear linkages. There's a few bolts here and there's a couple of clips there. I like personally to keep at least one bolt at the bottom because once we release the engine mount, you don't want the gearbox to be completely loose. One bolt at the bottom, when you can get the transmission jack underneath it, just kind of holds it there. Obviously the starter motor, that can come out as well. Now, to be fair, I might actually do all this before I get it, because then what we need to do is we need to put the car down, take the airbox out, take whatever else we need to take off up there so we can get to the top bolts. Then we need to put the engine support across it before we actually release the main gearbox mount. Right, I've taken off a couple of bolts down there, which is all kind of good. What I've also done is I've taken off the bracket for the gear linkage. You can see the gear linkage is just sneaking through there. Look. Yes, you can take the gear linkage off the bracket, but there's normally two issues. Now, this one's not too bad. This one just has clips on it. Some of them you have to spin them and separate them, and they can break, they get brittle, and it's a nightmare. This one was 3 12mm bolts and 2 little clips like this, which be very careful because you can easily lose these. Now, you can replace them, but you know, you can easily lose them. And the whole gear linkages comes off then. And also that bracket that bolts the gear linkage on, that's kind of big and awkward. It also gets that out of the way of the gearbox, so it doesn't get in your way. It's just so much easier to do it that way. Also, the clutch slave cylinder, don't disconnect the pipe, just unbolt it. So this way you don't have to actually bleed the system. You can just leave it there. You can change the fluid if you want, it just depends what you want to do, but at least you don't have to bleed the whole system. That is quite happily just hanging out there on its own. So now what we're going to do is we're going to drop it down and we're going to do some work from the top. Right, so we're at the top of the engine now, so what I'm going to do is remove the battery, just get it out of the way, it's in the way. Remove the airbox, remove a couple of pipes, and just whatever we need to remove. And there's going to be a couple of clips on the gearbox, you know, for the reverse and lights and stuff like that. Whatever we need to remove just to get to the ringer bolts around the top. Then what we got to figure out is, do we put the engine support across here, which there's not really a lot of room, or do I try and do something underneath with another transmission jack, which this is looking like what I maybe have to do, because there's no eye here, but also there's just no lip here. There's nothing to put the engine support on, so I might have to go underneath. So whip off the battery, whip off these few things, and then the dog can see the rabbit. Right, I think I've got everything. There was another starter motor bolt, 2 bolts for the top for the gearbox. Also this bracket here for the clutch slave cylinder. The reversing switch. I can also see now another earth here, so I've got to get that earth off. And then I think that is it. So then what I can do is I can lift it up and go from underneath, because I can't get an engine support on the top, and then get a ladder. Once I got the engine support and the gearbox support, undo the gearbox mount and take down the gearbox. That's what I got to do. On my Todd. Oh, the joys. I mean, what's the worst that can happen? We've got a ladder going up to the engine mount. We've got 2 transmission jacks. I cannot get them any closer. That one is dodgy. This one is dodgy. I don't know about this now. I can't see any other way around it. What really, 2 transmission jacks don't work. You need the ones that don't have any legs. You have the square bottom, and they're not hydraulic. You just twist a little bar around and they lift up. They have a lot less room that they take up, and you can get it inside here then, which is perfectly fine, and that will support the engine. But I cannot do that. I don't know if this is a good idea. This is a joke. This is the worst petrol gearbox I've ever taken out. Look at this bolt. The main bolt that goes across to hold the engine in, and it's hitting the battery tray. I have to take the battery tray out just to get that bloody bolt out. If they put it in the other way, wouldn't be an issue. I mean, ridiculous. Just ridiculous. Hey, this could go seriously tits up. I might as well film it. Because if it does go tits up, it's going to cost me a fortune. You can all laugh at me, tell me what I've done wrong, but then hopefully I'll get money back from the ad revenue of the video. I have to be so careful that engine doesn't move. It's not the nicest feeling, no? Just as well it's not really a big gearbox. Oh, so the hassle for, Leo. What are you moaning at? Making out it was difficult and, you know, scary and dangerous. Look at that. Oh, okay. Now it's a bit. Oh, yeah. Fuck. How did that do that? Holy fuck. I caught that on camera. The transmission jack just went straight down. Anyway, look, it's off. Happy days. Engine didn't move. Is that gearbox solid there? Seems to be. Don't like leaving it on that like that, but to be fair, I don't think it's going to go anywhere. Oh, happy days. I was just obviously lying. Right, release bearings kind of shagged. See, it's et into the clutch. That's not so much a big deal, but you can see these fingers. You see these fingers, how far they're sticking out that way? That's how you know a clutch is worn. When you put the new clutch in, you'll see them fingers be a lot flatter, almost completely flat. The more they come out, the more the clutch is worn. It's just kind of a quick and easy way of seeing. Right, got the new bearing. Put it in, that's all good, all nicely greased up. And that is in, as you can see. The old clutch, just as we expected, was very, very bad, down to the rivets. You can see that. Do you know? You see, yeah, so completely gone. New clutch. This is our clutch centering tool. Very, very cheap and absolutely brilliant. Most clutches do say gearbox side. You can see it there. Hopefully the camera's going to show it. And it's normally the thicker side of the clutch. See, that side is quite flat. Look, that side is quite thick. So that side goes toward the gearbox. Because if you had it the wrong way, it would hit on the flywheel. I can quickly show you. So if I put it that way, look. You can see it won't go in, where you turn it around the other way, and it wides nice and flat. So what I'm going to do, put the old clutch centering tool in. This just goes in the middle of the clutch, you screw it down and it gets tight. And all I'm going to do is pick 3 points on the clutch. I'm normally going to pick these, and just make sure the lip that I can see around is the same gap all the way around. That really is as simple as that. Then I'm going to screw it back and you know it's in the right place. It is so simple. Alright, so as you can see, the gap is more or less the same thickness all the way around. We're good to put that back on. Right, before I screw this down, so you get some better light on it, you can see there is no gap between the fingers and this. Once I screw it down, you'll see there's a huge gap there, and you'll see these fingers will become, you know, quite flat. So I'll show you that once I get it in. Right, look at the difference. Absolutely huge difference. So we can now take this off. And you see how flat them fingers are now? So there we go, nice and flat. Right, one of the easiest ways to actually tighten this down is you put a bolt through one of the holes or screw it into, and just use the lever bar like that, but obviously be this side, wedged against it, and that will allow you to hand tighten and torque the bolts down to factory spec. And my factory spec is click, click. Right, as you can see, I've wedged the gearbox up against the leg of the lift as I'm working on it so it doesn't fall off. But this isn't going to be as easy as it was taking it off. It never is, and especially when you're on your own. Especially when you've got two transmission jacks right next to each other in their own way. I'm on my own, trying to think of other excuses. I'll think of some other excuses in a second, because this already isn't the same. Like, how do I even do that? That's completely off to the side now. I hope this transmission jack doesn't fall down like it did before, because that won't be very nice. Took me by surprise. Oh. So careful that engine that it doesn't move. If it slips off that, the engine will literally break. Make sure that's in the right place. The only good thing is this gearbox isn't heavy, so I should be able to manhandle it on my own into place. That's the plan. But you can never be sure. Just like I thought. Nope. Oh, I'm moving the engine, which I don't want to do. Oh, why isn't that going in? Why aren't you going in? Oh, there we go. Did something. Oh, we're more or less in, I think. Got to turn it a little bit. I think we're in. That wasn't too bad. Just get one of the gearbox bolts, which I think is that one. Yep. Now, transmission jack is in my way again. Oh, I just kicked it. One hand lifting the gearbox, and the other taking this down. Oh, come on, please come down. You're not going to come down without me touching, are you? I have to push the transmission jack down, but I can't. This is now dodgy. That's only on by one fork of the transmission jack. This is not clever. Oh shit. This is not clever. Oh, and I just dropped the fucking bolt. Lucky I put two in my pocket. Oh. I just need to get something there. Just to kind of hold. Oh. Oh. What a bastard. Now I can reposition transmission jack. I'm hoping. Can I? Nope, I can't. Shit. Get in. Oh, that wasn't good. That wasn't good. Where's that bolt there? Well, considering on my own, doing it very dodgily. That could have gone a lot worse. But it's in, I think, more or less. But at least the other transmission jack now is supporting the engine, which I was more worried about, to be honest. Right, I'm just going to put all them bolts on. I'm going to do it off camera because again you're not going to be able to see, but yeah, we're getting there. Right, we are all in as regards all the bolts. Can I turn that light off? That's all right, yeah. So as regards all the bolts are in, don't tighten any bolts until all the bolts are in, and that goes for engine mounts, for anything with more than one bolt, because they can slightly move, and if you force one bolt in, you're going to do serious damage. Now, yes, I have put this bolt the other way because it was stupid the way it is, and I cannot wait, because I bet people are thinking, well, you can't do that because it's put in that way, so the bolt can't work its way out because in case it falls. Right, 2 issues with that. Well, maybe 3. 1, you actually don't know what you're talking about. 2, the bolts on the bottom of the gearbox can work their way through. The bolts on that side of the engine can work its way through. So even if this one manages to, there's two big mounts at the bottom of the gearbox anyway, so it's not going to go anywhere. Anyway, it's just easier for the next person, whatever they want to do. So what I'm going to do now is just tighten everything up, button everything up home, put the cables back in the right place, put the connections on, put the earths on, just kind of do all that, and then we can start putting some of the bigger bits back together. Right, so I've got all that back on, I've got all the clutch back on. This light is in the way of the camera. There we go. Oh, I've just realised I didn't put the clutch bracket on. Oh, I'm gonna have to redo that. But I've got all the clips in, I've got all the wires in, I've got all the bolts in, I've got the engine mounts in. Someone coming in. And I'm just going to do the gear linkages now and kind of do a few bits underneath. We are waiting for parts because the wrong CV boot come, the inner one, not the outer one. Or sorry, the outer one came, not the inner one. So I'm getting all this back together, putting the airbox on, put the battery on, put the intake on, put a couple of sensors on, and then that's really it. There's not a lot more I can do until I get the CV boot. One thing I can do, and I'll quickly do it now on camera for shits and giggles, is we'll test the clutch. Like, I'm going to show you this door, or this seat a bit better. Because look at this, you ready? Look how much forward that seat is. I mean, this seat is more or less at 90 degrees, this one here, or just a bit less, but look at that. Like, how do you drive like that? I don't understand it. It's not as if he's a 90-year-old person that's like 3 foot tall. Oh, this is ridiculous. Right, can you see? Clutch feels good. That's good. It didn't at first, it felt a bit hard. Don't know if you can see, but anyway, that feels good. Sorted. Right, I used that syringe to fill the gearbox, so the gearbox is now full. What I'm going to do now is I've also replaced the boot. I've done a separate video on replacing the boot, but I'm now going to just double check everything, make sure all the bolts, nuts, clips, everything is on and where it should be. Then put on the wheels. We've also give it a quick service as well. Then put on the wheels, then see if it drives. Because, you know, there's a chance it might not. I hope it does, but, you know, it's just a chance. Also, with all the pipes and earths and everything we've taken off, we want to make sure that, you know, the earths are working and everything's working on the vehicles. We have to go through everything. Right, generally, we're going to start this for the first time. But I'm not sitting in a seat that is fucking so bent over. Right. Oh, turn my light off because you can't see her. Turn my light off, thank you. Thank you, turn off. There we go. First things first. Does it start? Oh, it's in gear. First things first. Does it start? Okay, it starts. Engine light is off. I got to check the oil to go into gear. Oh yeah, goes into gear. Right, so I have double checked the oil. That's all okay. So yeah, it dries, no problem. One thing we do need to do is make sure it goes in reverse. Oh yeah, it goes in reverse. That's the most important thing. Right, we'll take this for a test drive, but unless I find anything, I won't turn the camera back on. But look, as always, hope it helps. Please like, share, comment and subscribe. Don't forget, links up here, links down below, but most important, don't forget, get your hands dirty. See you for the next one. Sorted.